Welcome to Storytime Haven, where timeless adventures await. Today, we bring you One Jump Ahead by Ray Humphries, a gripping tale of intrigue, action, and relentless pursuit. Set in a world of shifting alliances and unexpected betrayals, this thrilling narrative follows a daring protagonist whose quick wit and bravery keep him just one step ahead of danger. As secrets unfold and the stakes climb ever higher, you'll be drawn into a race where every decision counts. Get comfortable and prepare to be transported into a story where suspense and excitement collide at every turn. Chapter 1. That morning, bright and early, Manuel Perez was at the sheriff's office. He was there so early, in fact, that he found the office locked, and he had to wait around outside until he saw Sheriff Joe Cook and Shorty McKay, the deputy, coming up the walk. Then Manuel hobbled forward as quickly as he could manage with his wooden leg. There was a smile on his face, and his right hand was extended as he neared the two approaching officers. "Ah, senors," he exclaimed cordially. "Why, hello thar, Perez," said Sheriff Cook warmly, taking the Mexican's proffered hand. "Glad to see you. When did you get back?" "Out on parole, I suppose." "That is eat parole," announced Perez, shaking hands with Shorty. "I get back early D's morning. It is long time since I be here, eh, senors?" "It is long time I be in eat. De big house, what you call him. 1, 2, 3 years, but now de parole he come and I be back." "But," the smiling Perez shrugged his shoulders, "I have no de dinero, de money. No cow, no blah blah sheep, de place eat fall to eat's ruin. When I go away to de big house, you say maybe. Should I straighten up, you say. When I come out, you really help me, Sheriff. So I come." The sheriff's eyes traveled swiftly over Manuel Perez. The Mexican, bad as he was, had always been pitied by the sheriff. Perhaps it was because Perez had one leg off just below the knee. He hobbled around on a peg. The sheriff had sympathy for any such unfortunate, even if he was a convicted rustler. Looking at him now, Sheriff Cook saw the marks of the penitentiary on his care-lined face and his lackluster eyes. Perez had aged in the 3 years he had been in prison. He wore a prison shirt now, and a pair of coarse prison trousers. "Come in the office, Perez," invited Sheriff Cook. "I guess me and Shorty maybe kin figure some way of helping ya out. I guess the best thing to do is to try to get ya a job." "Si, senor," agreed Perez hopefully. "Perez," said the sheriff, after the trio had entered the office, "you got off light when you drawed 5 to 7 years. I know you'd been rustling calves for a long time, although we couldn't prove but the one case on you. I suppose you're through with that for all time, eh?" "See, I hope so," said the sheriff. "I'll ring up Earl Wettingle and see if he can't put you on as a sheep herder out to his place, until we maybe kin find something better. If Earl ain't got nothing open, I'll call Art Wachter and ask him to give you a job, Perez. Me and Shorty ain't such hard hombres, Perez, as you know. It was our duty to see you got punished for rustling, but now that you're out on parole, we're more'n ready to help you beat back if y'all Jews stay on the square." "I swear eat," said Perez hastily. "How long you been out, Perez?" asked Shorty, as the sheriff reached for the telephone directory. "I get out de big house yesterday noon," said Perez. "I catched a train to Salida. A friend bring me in wagon here. I come right to your office, but it is yet locked up. Central, give me Monte Vista 234 Rand, please," began the sheriff, but he hung up the receiver when the office door banged open and old Grandpa McMeal stumbled into the office, his washed-out blue eyes as wide as saucers. The sheriff and Shorty both sensed instantly that something was doing. Grandpa McMeal was too calm, too easygoing ordinarily, to come leaping into the office without waiting to knock, all breathless, his chin whiskers jerking convulsively as he tried to master his excitement. "Gents," burst out Grandpa wildly. Take it easy, Grandpa," suggested Shorty, jumping up to help the old man to the nearest chair. "Just as catch your breath afore you try any talking. You ain't seen a ghost, has you? Or the courthouse ain't on fire, or ghost?" "Fire!" cried Grandpa shrilly. "Huh. Say thar's devilment afoot, that's what. Leave it to me to find out about it too. I wasn't a Injun scout for nothing in my young days. Thar they was down under the bridge, working with them flash on and off lights and shovels, and digging for all they was worth. Who? Asked Sheriff Cook suddenly. Who? How the heck do I know? Thundered Grandpa peevishly. I seen 'em, that's all. They was a buryin' a body, I figured. Or a diggin' one up, mebbe. I don't know. I wasn't so sure either until this mornin'. Yeah, see, I had a toddy last night over to Pap Stewart's house, but this mornin' I goes down thar, under the bridge, and thar it is, purty as yer please, a big hole. The sheriff looked at Shorty, and Shorty looked at the sheriff, while old Grandpa fought for more breath. Manuel Perez, his face wearing a puzzled expression, got up and sauntered over to the window, as though withdrawing, as best he could, from a conference that might be more or less private in nature, judging from Grandpa's preliminary revelations. Shorty glanced at Perez just as the sheriff, recovering himself, asked Grandpa a question. "Yer say yer seen a big hole under the bridge?" "Sure," cried Grandpa breathlessly, "and tracks too. They was 2 men down thar workin' last night, about midnight, and I could hear the shovels a-goin'. I leaned over the bridge and I could see their flash on and off lights too. They dug up a big box and lugged it off. They waded Coyote Creek with it, and 2 men," repeated Sheriff Cook. "Yer can't describe 'em, heck," said Grandpa angrily. "They was shadders, that's all, shadders. I tell yer, it was dark as a bag of black cats. I went down this mornin' and saw the hole, and there was a rap at the door, and before the sheriff or Shorty could sing out an invitation to enter, it swung wide and in stepped Fred Spears, bubbling over with excitement. He wasted no time on preliminaries at all. He blurted his story right out. "I seen something funny last night down under the bridge," he exclaimed. "I was settin' down on the bank of Coyote Creek with my gal friend when I hears 2 men comin' splashin' across the creek, Sheriff. They usin' spotlight. I figures they're robbers, mebbe, and me and my gal just holds our breaths. So they don't see us, but they goes up under the end of the 3rd Street bridge and digs up a box, and then they goes back across creek." The sheriff pushed his chair back from the desk. "We know all about that, Fred," he said. "Grandpa McNeil here just has reported it. I reckon we better go take a look at that hole right now, Shorty. As for yer, Perez, I'll have to postpone seeing about a job for yer a few minutes while we looks into this whole business. Yer wait here, and when we gets back I'll call some of them sheep ranchers and surely," agreed Perez, bowing. "But maybe I like go look at hole too." "EF, Sheriff, no object to eat. Half the town's thar now," put in Grandpa McNeil suddenly. "I tell yer, Sheriff, it's devilment, that's what." There was a hole under the east end of the 3rd Street bridge, sure enough. Quite a hole. The 2 mysterious men, whoever they might have been, had spaded over an area fully 12 by 10 feet. They had dug extensively, it appeared, to locate the box, and had evidently taken it from a depth of some 2 feet or more near the far end of the excavation. The soft earth had crumbled in, however, and there was no telltale impression left to give the officers any accurate idea of the size of the box that had been unearthed. There was quite a crowd of interested citizens around, and they had tramped out some of the signs about the place, no doubt. But the trail the men had taken to the river was plain enough, and quite astonishing in itself. "Great sufferin' jack-rabbits," exclaimed the sheriff as he stared at it. "That was some box they got out of thar, Shorty. Look it, they drug it clear to the river, a long narrow box. Thar's the trail clear as daylight right to the water." "Yep," said Shorty glumly, "and that's all thar is too. Thar ain't no footprints at all, boss. That box they dragged wiped out the prints." "What do you know about that?" The sheriff swore softly under his breath. "This is a hot one," he remarked as he stared around the crowd. "What do you suppose could have come off here last night? Spears, you saw the men. What did they look like, eh? Was it too dark for yer to get any descriptions?" Spears, thus honoured before the whole crowd, shook his head. "I saw 'em purty plain, for they passed close to me," he answered. "They was both tall, easy over 6 feet, and husky, and once, when one feller was holding a flashlight and the other feller was stooped down, dragging at the box they'd finally found. I saw that the stooped-over feller had light hair. I guess that was about all, excepting it was a big, long, narrow box they got out and drug away, and it was heavy, and Thev must have been big fellers because they lifted it and carried it as soon as they struck the creek in on their way back. I guess that's all." The sheriff put his hands on his hips. "A fine howdy-do," he remarked savagely. "Gosh knows what them birds dug up from under this bridge. Buried treasure, likely, or maybe a body. But more probably gold, or some other kind of loot, maybe smuggled stuff from the border, and they didn't leave a blamed clue either. A nice mess, folks, I'll say. Shorty, what do you make of it all? Shorty stared around blankly. I dunno, he said. It looks kinda funny, doesn't it? The buried box mystery forthwith became the great sensation of the San Luis Valley. There were all kinds of rumors afloat instantly, of course, and everybody had his or her pet explanation of the mystery. There were many who thought that a body had been exhumed from beneath the end of the bridge. There were as many others who firmly believed that a fortune in smuggled jewels or contraband narcotics from the border had been dug up and carried away, and there were many odd explanations too. I maintains that it was Injun treasure, insisted old Grandpa McNeil hotly, and I blame myself for not going right down thar when I saw them two ruffians working thar and stretching 'em out cold with my cane. I could have done it too, if I had just been sure I saw 'em like I thought. I had them two toddies up to Pappy Stewart's house just afore an while. I weren't sure I did see them two fellas thar. I could have reached out and poked a stick at 'em and made 'em put up their hands, said Fred Spears. I was that close to 'em, but my gal friend was scared to death, and I didn't dare take no chances. O' course, I could have licked 'em both in a rough-and-tumble fight, big as Thev was, but Wall, it weren't no time or place to start a lot of cussin' and trouble. Sheriff Cook was worried. As soon as he got back to the office, trailed by the sad-looking Manuel Perez, he slumped into a chair and sighed in despair. If it ain't one thing, it's another. With this job, Manuel, he explained, did ya notice where that fella Shorty disappeared to? He say he looked for clues, answered Perez. Oh, said the sheriff. Yes, I remember, so he did. Wall, I looked and thar wasn't any, Perez. What do you think about it, eh? Somebody had something valuable hid thar. See, said Perez. Maybe some robbers long time ago hide stuff thar, who knows? Where I was, in de big house, sheriff. I hear often those robbers speak of burying their loot. The sheriff nodded. That's the answer, Perez. In my mind, it might have been some of that Alamosa bank loot that was stolen 8 years ago, or maybe some of that Como stage gold bullion that was taken 12 years ago. I'll have to look up them old jobs, and speaking of jobs, I'll call up about yours right now, son. The sheriff was successful. On the third call, Jack Quinn, a sheep rancher on Larimer Creek, agreed to take on Perez, the ex-convict, provided the sheriff thought he would go straight. The sheriff said he did think so, and the deal was made, after which the sheriff lectured Perez again, got that honest fellow's sworn promise to be good, and started him on his way with a loan of $2 for grub en route. Perez was bubbling over with gratitude. Gracias, sheriff, he exclaimed. I go Senor Quinns at once. Maybe someday Manuel Perez able to pay sheriff back for kindness. Watch and see. Adios, senor. When Shorty reported, some hours later, that he had been unable to find a single clue in the vicinity of the 3rd Street Bridge, the sheriff was not at all surprised. He had not expected Shorty to find any. He said so. He also pointed out to his disappointed deputy that he himself had searched the scene rather thoroughly while making his first investigation of the place and had not found anything. It looked like a hopeless proposition. Not a danged clue, said the sheriff. But I got my mind made up as to what it was, Shorty. It wasn't nobody business. It was loot buried thar from the Alamosa bank robbery 8 years ago. They never caught the crooks and never found trace of the dough. It was that or else the loot from the Como stage robbery 12 years ago, or from some other job. We ain't got a chance in 10 million of land in them, guys. Despite the description Spears got. We kin check on the descriptions we got at the time with them Alamosa and Como stage robbers and CEF. They coincides with Spears. Descriptions of the men last night, but outside of that, I'll check on 'em, said Shorty, moving toward the door. Go ahead, said the sheriff wearily, and meanwhile I'll stay here and do a little heavy thinking, Shorty. We can't afford to overlook no bets, if there are any bets. Yeah, remember what Fred Spears said, big giants of fellas and one with light hair. It's a purty meager description, but it's all we got, Shorty. Sheriff Cook, however, had little time to do much heavy thinking, as he had put it. Shorty had not been gone more than 30 minutes when in came Doc Healy and Eddie Owens, and Bert Clark, the county commissioners, and they were considerably excited. They got down to brass tacks immediately. "Sheriff," said Owens, "you ain't forgot, I trusts, that this is the year of the spring elections in this county. You're up for re-election again, I presume, and so are we county commissioners. You remembers that?" "O' course." "Wall, therefore, me and Doc Healy and Bert Clark figured we'd better drap in on you and see what you think about this buried box business. Everybody's talking, sure they are. It's a sensation. It's either good business or bad business for all of us," went on Owens sadly. "If you clears up the case, it's a big help come election time, but if you don't and the other side makes political capital of your failure, we're all liable to sink together." The sheriff frowned. "You ain't telling me no news," he snapped. "It's just is one dang thing after another in this office. We no sooner gets one case cleared up than here comes another, but this one, gents, this one ain't no cinch. We got no clues." Commissioner Bert Clark spoke up quickly. "Wall, I'll tell you one thing. You won't get no clue settin' thar in your chair." After that remark, the atmosphere became rather strained. The sheriff ignored Clark's question as one far beneath his notice. The other two commissioners, not being as frank as Clark, said nothing more on the subject. They spoke on the spring wheat prospects, the weather, the new railroad that was coming in to Alamosa. They left with awkward farewells shortly after leaving a worried sheriff behind them. He growled as the door closed on them. "I wouldn't give 'em the satisfaction of arguing with 'em about whether I kin get clues settin' here in my chair or not," he grunted. "I wouldn't dignify such a impudent question with an answer. Still, I reckon, mebbe I'd best—" He got up and slapped on his big black hat. "I'll go down and look that place over again." And he did. The crowd was gone now. Only a few boys hung around, thrilled with the very atmosphere of the place. The sheriff poked here and there. He followed the strange trail of the dragged box to the creek bank. He reassured himself that the trail did actually vanish in the creek bed. The bed was sandy, shifting sand that would cover any trail almost instantly, and there was nothing about the hole now but a million footprints. The sheriff shook his head mournfully. "No use," he muttered. "No use." He stared about, trying to think if he could be overlooking anything. It did not seem so. He glanced this way and that, and a thought struck him. He wondered if Shorty had combed the dead weeds and the brush to both sides of the bridge end. It was hardly likely that it was worthwhile. Still, the sheriff went at the thing methodically enough. He strode back and forth, up and down, this way and that, covering all the weeded area on the south of the bridge without discovering anything, other than old tin cans, pieces of wood, scraps of iron, and the other debris that one might expect to find along a creek bank. He finally crossed under the bridge to the north side and began his investigations there. He had not been at work 10 minutes on that side when he stopped in his tracks with a surprised snort. "By golly!" he exclaimed, and stooping over he picked up a rusty old black wallet. There was a rubber band around it. He snapped the band off and opened the wallet. Empty, visions of greenbacks, calling cards, the owner's name and address, perhaps, all faded away. Empty. But no, it wasn't empty after all. There was a newspaper clipping in one pocket of the old wallet, a clipping slightly yellowed with age. The sheriff took it out carefully, inspected it, held it closer to read. Find. No trace of bank robbers. Alamosa bandits fade into thin air and Clarion goes to press this Thursday. No trace has been found of the 3 gunmen who entered the Alamosa bank last week and got away with $8,000 in cash and $5,600 in negotiable securities. They have apparently disappeared into thin air. Sheriff Ralph Baird of Alamosa has worked tirelessly in an effort to trace the men, but without avail. The reward of $1,000 offered by the Colorado State Bankers Association has so far borne no fruit. It is hoped, however, that— Sheriff Cook read no further. He put the clipping back in the wallet. He placed the wallet in his pocket. "Great sufferin' jackrabbits," he exclaimed hopelessly as his face grew longer, "just as I thought. It was the Alamosa loot that was buried here. What them crooks got away with last night? 8 years. 8 years, that $8,000 plus that $5,600 in securities has been buried under this bridge here in Monte Vista, right under my nose." The sheriff stalked on like a man in a trance. "Last night they come back and get it. proving that I am asleep on the job. They was in town last night and got away clean. Further, that loot has been there 8 years, and now it's gone. And also, them robbers must have been here a little after that Alamosa job, 8 years ago, to bury the stuff in the first place. Gee whiz, what a nice mess now. The sheriff headed for his office with rapid strides. What the heck am I going to do? He asked himself, as he strode along. It's a cinch thar's no catching them Alamosa robbers now, ef they couldn't be catched 8 years ago when the trail was hot. Finding that old wallet just proves what I feared, and that's all. It don't help none otherwise. It just makes the case more hopeless than ever. I can't see any use. The sheriff swallowed hard. No use in announcing anything about the finding of the wallet, he decided disgustedly. It only makes matters worse than ever. It proves I was asleep 8 years ago to let that stuff be buried here then, and that I've been asleep every day since while it's been here, as while as lasses night when they come and got it. I better keep that wallet business under my hat. But he did not. When he got back to the office and found Shorty full of hope that the mysterious box case might be solved, he could not keep his secret. He cautioned Shorty first to keep what he was about to say in strictest confidence forever, and then he blurted out the sad truth. Shorty, we ain't ever going to catch them box fellers. They was the Alamosa robbers. Sure enough. Look it here, what I found in the weeds down near the 3rd Street Bridge. The sheriff produced the wallet. Shorty read the clipping eagerly. When he had read it through and examined it closely, he looked up at the woebegone sheriff. I still say, said Shorty, that we got a chance. The next morning the sheriff, having spent a sleepless night, came down to the office wan and haggard. He had no faith in Shorty's optimistic predictions of the evening before, since finding the wallet with the telltale newspaper clipping in it. The sheriff had given up the box case as a matter that was not to be solved. It was hopeless, he had decided. There was nothing left to do now but to face the music, and the anticipated opportunity to listen to some sad music was not long denied him. The commissioners arrived shortly after 9 o'clock. Wal, asked Commissioner Eddie Owens mournfully, what luck, ef any, has ya had in the box case, Sheriff? We are naturally anxious to know ef ya got any clues. The sheriff answered the question carefully. No luck whatever, said he. Huh, said Commissioner Bert Clark. That's bad, Sheriff, mighty bad. The public clamor is increasing. The rumor is spreading everywhere that maybe we ain't going to ever solve the case. The sheriff took his pride in his hands, what he had left of it. He tried to smile at the commissioners and failed. That rumor, gents, he said slowly, is just as about correct. I figure it's right. We ain't going to ever get the men who got that box, however. The sheriff produced the old wallet. I found one clue, he said unhappily, and this is it, a old wallet, evidently dropped by one of the crooks who come for that box. Thar's a clipping inside that tells the tale. Here it is. Yer, gents, kind read it. He passed over the clipping and sighed. After all, it would not have been right, he decided on the spur of the moment, to keep that thing a secret from the county commissioners. They had a right to know. The worst. He watched their faces as Clark read the clipping aloud, and the sheriff knew it was his official death knell as sheriff of Monte Vista that the commissioner was reading. Clark finished. The commissioners were silent. I take it that the clipping settles the box mystery case, and settles me, said the sheriff softly. It means, that clipping, that it was 2 of the Alamosa bandits who came back and got that buried loot, the Alamosa loot, the other night. It means we'll never get 'em. It means that they was not only here the other night, but that they was likewise here after the robbery when they buried the loot, here twice and we didn't get 'em either time. That loot was here all those 8 years and we didn't get it. The commissioners coughed, fidgeted. If it helps the party any, I'll up and resign, offered the sheriff meekly. I have made up my mind. Your kin put up a new man for sheriff come election, and mebbe win with him, seeing you probably can't win with me when this news gets out. Commissioner Clark nodded. You're taking the matter sensible, Sheriff, he agreed. I think your suggestion is the only suggestion possible. The sheriff reached a trembling hand for a pad of paper. He would write out his resignation as a candidate for re-election now. It could be announced at once, and... There was an interruption, however. Shorty and Manuel Perez and Fred Spears appeared in the open doorway suddenly. They entered quickly. The commissioners stared, but it was the sheriff who spoke up, thickly, in a strange tone. "Shorty, I'm busy jusses now. If it ain't important, I wish y'd wait outside. Hello, Perez. You get fired offen your new job already? Good morning, Spears. Now if you all will—" "This matter won't wait," said Shorty, taking in the situation at a glance. "Whatever yer was aiming to write down on that pad had better wait, boss. Looky here." Shorty yanked a bundle from his shirt front, a bundle wrapped in newspapers. He quickly broke the string that held it. He spread the bundle out on the sheriff's desk. Money, greenbacks, dozens of them, hundreds of them. A young fortune in currency. "Thar, boss," said Shorty softly. "Thar's what was in that box that was dug up out of the ground under the end of the 3rd Street Bridge the other night. It's money. About $6,000 in cold cash, as I counted it hastily. The box itself has been discarded somewheres, but it doesn't matter much. Perez here kin tell us all about the box. In fact, he's already told me, confessed, that dough is his loot from many a rustlin' deal afore he went to the pen. Yeah. Remember he had no money when we arrested him? He pretended to be broke. Well, he was canny enough to have buried his roll under the bridge, just as afore we pinched him, and while he was in stir he planned how to get it." Shorty grinned at the startled commissioners. "Perez planned well, but I was just as one jump ahead of him all the time, it seems," Shorty went on. "He said he got in town the other morning from the pen, having left thar at noon. I thought it strange he should come direct to us to get him a job when he could have gone to his old Mexican friends. He was still playing that poverty gag. I checked up on the pen, though, and found he had left thar 12 hours earlier than he said, so that he could have been here when the box was dug up. Perez and Spears here dug up the box. I had suspected that Perez was in on it as soon as I heard the report, because the trail of the men had been obliterated by the dragging of the box, as we thought. And why? Because Perez knew his peg-leg marks would give him away. That's why they came and went by wading the creek. But it wasn't a box they dragged after them. Perez simply scraped his shovel along as he made further creek, being careful to follow the same path down as he had took coming up. Perez got to our office early for 2 reasons. First, to impress on us that he wanted a job, that he was broke, and that he meant to go straight. Also, he wanted to be here when we opened, so he could hear if Grandpa McMeal, who had stumbled onto things, reported to us. When Grandpa came in with his story, Perez moved to the winder, signaling Spears, who was waiting. Spears came in and reported what he had seen, being careful to give us bum descriptions. Old eagle-eyed McMeal couldn't describe the men, it was so dark, but Spears could, and that's why I suspected Spears. When yer found the wallet, boss, I was sure it had been planted to throw us off the track on a hopeless angle. I learned at the Clarion office that Spears had been in, right after the case had become public, to give his story to the editor. He was alone in the office for a time. The old files are there. I looked up the issue 8 years back that carried the item that was in the wallet. Sure enough, that clipping had been clipped, and juices recent, because there was new fingerprints on the dusty file. See? So I went out to the ranch where yer had got Perez's job and cross-examined him. He had the dough on him. He confessed everything, including the fact that Spears had been in the rustling game with him afore he went to the pen. Spears, however, didn't know where the swag was hid until Perez got back, told him, and together they arranged the job of recovering their dough. Easy enough if old Grandpa McMeal hadn't butted in. The faces of the county commissioners relaxed. "This," said Commissioner Clark, "juices about clinches the election this spring, Sheriff. Yer done fine work. Yer got our heartiest congratulations. The story of how yer solved the most baffling case in years in Monte Vista will sure make good reading. Folks all through the valley will lift their hats to yer, Sheriff, and vote us all back into office, sure as shootin'." The sheriff pushed away the pad that he had been about to write on when Shorty brought in Perez and Spears. "Yes," he agreed, grinning. "I guess the election's won right now. EF re-elected, gents. I has but one pledge to make now, and that is, I will reappoint Shorty McKay as my deputy for another term because, well, gents, I like Shorty a heap." "Amen to that," said Commissioner Clark fervently. Thank you for joining us at Storytime Haven for One Jump Ahead by Ray Humphries. We hope you enjoyed this electrifying journey of courage, cleverness, and survival. The twists and turns of this remarkable tale remind us that sometimes being just one jump ahead can make all the difference. If you love this adventure, don't forget to like the video, share it with fellow story enthusiasts, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating stories from the world's greatest authors. Until next time, keep your imagination alive and your sense of wonder ever ready.